Welcome back. So this the second part of our video. In here now we are basically going to populate our Word document. So like I said, most of the times we'll be working on the home tab, which is loaded by default. So the first thing first, we can have some text to work with. So I'm just basically gonna type not something. So I'm assuming again by now at least you must be familiar with working with a keyboard, as this must have been taught to you in the previous unit, which is file management and using computers. So I'm just gonna basically populate this. I'm going to say my modules for 2020 as an example. So I'm going to give my first module as computer literacy. Okay, maybe something to note is if you want to capitalize your words, or the first letter of any word, you can basically hold the shift button. Again, something that should have been taught in unit 2. So computer literacy, maybe CSI, English, English 2, maybe mathematics, depending on the course you're doing. Okay, so now we have some text to work with. So the first thing that we can do is basically maybe change the font. So we're basically going to work on the first section, which is font management. So the first thing that you can do is highlight the first line. So you highlight by, of course, left clicking and holding or dragging. So you can drag from left to right or right to left. Then you can click on the bold button here to basically bold that text. The next button will italize the text, and then the next button will also underline the text. Okay, the next button will stretch through, which basically means draw a line through the text. Then of course you have the subscript and superscript. I'll get into those in a bit. So if I want to change my font type, most times people in an assignment will tell you to use a specific font type. So you can change your font type here, but ensure that your text is highlighted first. So click there on the drop down menu on the right hand side of the font name, then navigate to the font that has been specified on your assignment. Say for this case we want to look for Times New Roman. So this is alphabetically numbered. We go to our T, then we find Times New Roman. Okay, then you can also increase your font size to a specified font size that might be specified on your assignment. So in this case I'm going to set it to 12. The next buttons here now enable you to do that by the multiples, by increasing it by 2 points. So you can use the A with a drop down arrow to decrease the font size, and the next one to increase the font size. Okay, so I've set it now to 14. Then you should be able to see it there also being reflected. The next button enables us to change how we want our wording to be in the sentence. So in this particular case we are using sentence capitalization, which basically means capitalize the first word of the sentence and everything else goes to lowercase. You can also have lowercase everything, uppercase everything, or capitalize each word. So if you do that, then you can see that each word in that sentence is capitalized. And if I change that again to sentence caps, you can already see that each only the first letter of the first word is capitalized. Okay, then of course you can also do this on multiple text. You can highlight as much text as you want, then you can basically be able to do that on multiple text. So the good thing is with font size, font types, font that you've recently used always comes to the front, so you are able to change that quickly. And I can also increase my font size to 12. And then so the subscript and superscript basically enables you to have text appear as an exponent to another. So you can do something like that. Then you can see the computer goes goes a little bit higher than the literacy, then you can also do that. Then you can see it goes below that, or you can click on it again to disable that. Then you notice that it becomes normal. So with most buttons in Word or in other Microsoft Office packages, the buttons normally have a small description on what they do. So if you hover around that button without clicking, it will basically give you an indication of what that button does. So in this particular case, we are saying the superscript, type very small letters just above the line of the text. So you can basically do for anything. This removes all formatting from the selection, and then you have your text highlighting, then you have the text effects, and so on and so on. So now let's look at the text highlighting. So text highlighting basically works as your normal highlighter would work in the physical world. So this basically highlights, gives a highlight on the text that you're working on. So you can of course drop down here, you can select a different color that you'd want to appear on your text. Then the next button is the font color. So the font color works differently from the highlighting. I'm just going to show you here with the same color so that you're able to see the difference. So you can see here that the font color changes the color of the font, while the highlighting changes the color of the background. So if you were to actually combine these two, this text will not be visible. So you'll have something like that. It's not the same color. So you'd have something like, so the text is not visible because now you have the same font color as the highlighting color. So I'm going to set that back to black, so then it becomes visible. Okay, so that's the difference. Then in the next section we look at the paragraphs. So the paragraphs, when you are typing a very large document, basically is as it is in the physical world. So you just basically have certain sections which are correlated with each other. So the first thing that we look into the paragraph is if you want to have bullet points or numbers. So I can click here to insert a bullet point on this particular line, or I can click, there's a small arrow next to it, then I can have a little bit more options on the bullets that I can select. Of course, there are more ways to do this. You can also define your own bullets that you want by using that, but that's a little advanced. We're not going to talk about that now. So you can do that. Then you can also, if I want to change this to numbers, I can just click there. Similarly, I can also choose the kind of number format I want to use, whether it's 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, Roman numeral, and so on and so on. Okay, then the beauty of this is if I just press enter on my keyboard, I automatically have number 2. Okay, I can maybe have another module here, social studies, then again number 3, and so on and so on. But what if I want this to continue there? Well, I can just highlight this, then automatically they are also included in that numbering list. The little pop-up that pops up for me here just basically prompts me if I want this to be the case, or if I want to restart numbering from 1, which I can also do that. Then I'll start numbering from there, or I can continue numbering from there. If not, I can just right click on the number here, then I can say restart at 1 or continue numbering depending on the need. But in this particular case, of course, I want this to be to continue numbering. Okay, so now we have our numbered list, but in most cases you'd want to have what is referred to as a multi-valued numbered list. So say for example I want computer literacy there, but I want its description to be slightly inside but not part of the original list. So for me to be able to do that, I use what is called indenting. So indenting, I can increase it inside such that I can have a description for computer literacy as not part of the original list. Then I can also change my bullet my list here such that I use the bulleted list for my descriptions. So here I can also maybe just give a short description to say module on learning how to use a computer. then I can do the same here. So notice now if I do the indenting, it's going to inherit that that format. Module on, I can't remember what social studies was all about, but yeah, I'm going to say on social things. Then module on society, maybe. Module on English in university. Of course, these are not real life examples, and you might need to do that when you're typing a Word document to use real life example. Module on English for university. Okay, so then you have your multi-valued list. So I can also do this, I can increase my indent even further. So then this basically means this is a sub point of that sub point, which is a sub point of this point. So you can also have, like, I can increase my indent even further, so you notice that. But at each level I will be able to decide whether I want a bullet point or whether I want a number or a letter or or anything that I would want at that particular level. Okay, so you can basically decide on that. Okay, the next thing that we look at is, okay, this is now out of styling. Inside. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it outside, and let me just bring this outside as well. Okay, so this is increase indent to basically push the text inside, and that is decrease indent to move your to push the text to the left, more to the left. So the next thing that we would look at will be the how do you style your paragraph. So this is basically how do you align your text in a Word document. So I can have my text to be left aligned, which is normally the default. I can have it to be center aligned, and you notice the button is selected there, and then you also have it right aligned or justified. And again, all these buttons have a slight bit of description just to give you an edge on what the button really does. Then the next button is basically to work on your paragraph, to kind of give you some style of that paragraph. So the first thing that we look at is shading. Shading is normally confused with highlighting, but I hope you can notice the difference here. So shading shades the whole paragraph, so I can do that, and then it shades literally the whole paragraph, while highlighting basically highlights only the text that you selected. So if I select this text and highlight it, it will just basically highlight that text that I selected. But if I select this line and do shading, it will basically do the entire line. So the difference is because this works on the paragraph and this works on the selected text. So that's the difference. Then the next thing, of course, if I want to highlight all this, I can just select this whole text and say highlight. Then I can have something like that. Then, of course, I don't want to do that. I'm going to undo those. Then the next thing that works closely with highlighting is the borders. So the borders, I can also decide to have borders on my paragraph, which I can decide to have all borders, inside, outside, top, bottom, left, right, no borders at all outside borders only, and that works the same as your highlighting. So I can decide to have all borders, then it will have borders all around that. Of course, you also have more ways to do that, so you can select here, and then you come to more borders and shading. Then you can select how you want your shading to be, so whether you want this line, that line, and so on and so on. But we'll look more on the border when you look in the page layout. Then the next thing is basically the styles, which enables us to style what kind of text we are working on in a Word document. So the first thing that you look at is the normal text, which is what we're working on here, but we can also make this a heading, so that we know that this is basically the heading of what we're working on. Then I can make this a heading 2. Then this basically means this computer literacy is a subheading of my modules 2020. Then I can also make this still heading 2. Then you'll notice here when you come to your navigation that these are sub headings of the main headings there. And so on and so on. So I can maybe make this heading 3, which then basically becomes a subheading of computer literacy. Then the next thing that is also quite useful is the find and replace. So if you are working on a very large document and you've maybe made a mistake on the kind of wording that you're using and you'd like to search for that particular word, you can use the find tool. So in here I can say, for example, computer. Then it should find me all the text, all the sentences which contain the word computer. So in this particular case, this is the two sentences which contain the word computer. I can also do find replace. So I can say find computer and maybe replace it with comp. You can just say replace all. Then you'll notice that all those were replaced. I can do the same. Replace find comp, replace with computer, replace all, or I can do it one by one to say replace next. Then again that is done for me. So that concludes the first part on working with text. The only other thing which is important, of course, is the copying and pasting, which is what you find here on the clipboard. So here you have your copy, and you have your cut, which is what you use for moving text, and then you also have your paste. So a paste has different options, which allows you to paste as the format where you copied from, or using the format of where you are taking the text to, or automatically to basically match the formatting of that. So you can also use that. So the format painter is basically if I want to copy the format of this line to this line, so I can use the format painter. Then I will basically be able to copy that format to this format. So that's what the format painter is used for. The other thing which is quite important is how do you if you get stuck, you can always use the help feature to be able to help you or guide you through certain things that might not have been covered in this video. Other than that, we'll continue with the next video, which will be under the insert tab.